Order. I'm going to call up Barry Coates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to speak to this bill, our Work Our Future bill. It'd be nice to get beyond petty political point scoring, because a lot of companies out there really care about these issues, and I commend the Labour Party for introducing this bill. I think it's an important bill, and we support it. The aim for procurement policy should not just be to get the cheapest product. We all know that in our own procurement, when we buy stuff from a shop, we don't go for necessarily the cheapest price. We don't even necessarily go for the cheapest cost on a long-run basis. We go for the best value. And that's what this bill is about. It's about getting the best value from procurement for the New Zealand economy. And I think to that extent, it is exactly the direction that our procurement policy should be going. We would, as the Green Party, go a bit further. There are different dimensions to this procurement policy. The first is a kind of strategic procurement approach, and that helps small New Zealand businesses get a foothold. And contracts can be structured in ways that will enable New Zealand businesses to compete for them or not. And that's one of the things that this bill aims to do. It aims to break contracts down to the level that allows New Zealand businesses to be able to compete on a fair footing for procurement contracts. From that perspective, it is sensible policy. Secondly, a procurement policy based on value allows the incorporation of the value to the local economy and the local jobs and all of the spin-off benefits that come from local value added in the economy. Thirdly, it allows for the consideration of issues of sustainability. And of course, that's important to the Green Party, because we should not be undertaking procurement contracts that don't respect the environment and don't respect social issues for workers and for communities. And finally, procurement should be fair. It should be fair to all parties. And this is where I think the current policy has got severely offside. As Oscar Wilde said, you know, where we're going down a track with procurement under this government is to know the price of everything and the value of nothing. And that's exactly the policy that is being proposed, that's being followed at the moment by this government, and this bill would help us to understand the value of procurement in a deeper way. It is within a longer term and wider context. It is within the context of the manufacturing sector in New Zealand being torn apart. It was torn apart previously, but increasingly it is also being torn apart under this government. The Green Party recently released its policy for a Ministry of Manufacturing. We showed that 17,500 manufacturing jobs have been lost under the national government. That's a tragedy for this country, because they are good jobs, they're well-paying jobs, and they're vital jobs for the future of our manufacturing and our exports. So what are we talking about with this bill? We're talking about contracts that allow New Zealand companies to compete on a fair basis. Is this agreement in accordance with current trade obligations? The other side of the House, the National Party, would say that no, this bill runs afoul of our existing trade commitments. There are two issues here. One, that our government has been lightly entering into trade commitments that they shouldn't be entering into, because they will constrain sensible policies that are for the benefit of the New Zealand economy and in the New Zealand interest. And it's a good thing that the TPPA agreement is not going ahead. Secondly, there are already flexibilities within these agreements that would allow us to be able to do what this bill proposes, to be able to structure contracts, not so that we're paying inflated prices to uncompetitive New Zealand firms, but to give New Zealand firms a fair chance to get a foothold, to get a start in manufacturing and services, to be able to establish a base that then they can go on and compete with imports and compete internationally. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We commend this bill.